Mr. Latchford? Here. Mr. Freeze?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
Ms. Espar? Here.
Minutes of our previous November 2nd were included in our packet. There is an objection.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
That's an old business that we need to attend to, and that request for variance to vehicle policy. Mr. Shin?
Yes, the variance to the off-road vehicle policy. We discussed that at a meeting a month or so ago where an individual who was handicapped wanted to use an 18 horsepower vehicle on the sand paths of Esplanade. We looked into it. I spoke with the Save the Dunes Foundation, and we discussed possibly increasing the maximum horsepower to 18. We discussed it, and we decided to leave well enough alone and leave the maximum horsepower at 14. However, since then, I feel like I was a little bit disappointed at the time because there is not a lot of traffic of off-road vehicles with handicapped people trying to get to the beach. So it was the idea of Shannon who came up with a good plan to conduct an experiment and find out if a 14 horsepower will make it up the hill at this individual's path going to the beach. So we found a person that weighed the same as this gentleman, and we put him and a driver in a 14 horsepower off-road vehicle, and sure enough made it up to the beach and back. So the 18 horsepower vehicle is not needed in that respect. However, as I said, I was very disappointed that this person has to spend his time at home, can't make it to the beach. And I got to thinking how many people are actually licensed to use this Esplanade are very few. Shannon, could you tell me about how many people?
Typically, it's 4 to 6 annually.
So in the whole stretch of stop 2 to stop 13, there are only 4 to 6 licensees that are handicapped that operate these vehicles on these paths. So with that thought in mind, I was hoping to see that the 18 horsepower off-road vehicle had no wider track than the 14. However, the track is a little bit wider, but it still doesn't reach the limits of the path. So at some point in time, I would like to discuss possibly increasing the limit to 18 horsepower due to the fact that there are so few people who are not able to get to the beach and are licensed for an off-road vehicle. Is this something that we should discuss? I think so.
Thank you, Mr. Shin. Any comments from the board? Yeah, feel free.
There's also a note here, not to exceed 500 cc 4-stroke with 18. What would 18 horsepower?
I'm not sure of the cubic centimeters on the 18 horsepower. I know that the 18 horsepower gives it more speed.
Yeah.
And the cubic centimeters just delivers more gas and air, but I'm not sure what other effects it has. I think my concern here is how it will affect the Esplanade, because that was my personal goal in the beginning, to find out how these off-road vehicles affect the dune grass, which you don't want to damage. After conducting this experiment and looking at the slight increase in the width relative to the size of the path, and the fact is that this gentleman can't make it down to the beach, I think there's very little impact on the Esplanade. I would like to consider allowing this person, maybe on a trial basis, this person probably only reaches the beach a dozen times a year, maybe 20 times a year, but I can't see that that would have any impact, negative impact on the Esplanade now that I've overlooked the experiment.
And this is the gentleman that already has that 18 horsepower.
He does.
Would we remain with the 14 horsepower for any new individuals, or would we allow them to move up in horsepower?
That's something we should discuss because, as Kent mentioned in the last meeting, if we open it up to 18 horsepower, will other people want 18 horsepowers? However, if we only have 6 or 7 licensees, how often really will that 18 horsepower be used on the Esplanade? How much, I guess we have to consider how much negative impact is there when they're used for transportation only on such a small basis. It's something to consider.
Mr. President, if I could remind the board, these are annual passes, so the board has to consider them each and every year. So the suggestion of maybe issuing a temporary variance for a short period of time and then readdressing it next year if it doesn't seem to be an issue. The speed on these units can be governed down. So the reason the board originally chose the horsepower limits was to limit people from going fast on the beach because of beachgoers. But as Mr. Shin said, this gentleman is just trying to get down to the beach from his house and back. So I think there's an opportunity to do a test run, and then annually it can be revisited, or other variance requests could be addressed on a case-by-case basis.
I have one question on that. The pathway that you tested that he would use, is that one of the pathways where the blue pathway is?
Yes.
Would there be any difficulty once we start planting marram grass to cover up the sand? If that's a larger vehicle, would that damage the marram grass that has yet to be planted?
I don't believe it's wide enough.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It's only 6 inches wider than
The 14.
the 14 horsepower. And the marram grass does not go up to the exact edges of the paths because we need room to install and remove them. But
Thank you.
that's a good point.
Any other questions or comments?
My memory could be failing me, but last time we were in this room, we had the one gentleman who had sent us information ahead of time about his request for variance that was actually present. And then I believe there was a second individual who he came up at the same time because the issue was the same. Do you know anything about that second individual, if he would be utilizing that same path, or if I don't remember if he specifically submitted something to the park department regarding, or if he just came to our meeting. I'm wondering if that same impact, if we allow the variance for the one gentleman, if I would think it would be fair to also offer it to the other, but I don't know if the impact would be different based on different access point or different vehicle or what have you. I don't remember.
If I remember, his vehicle was a 3-wheeler ATV, and it was overpowered, similar to the situation with the other gentleman. But I would agree, if we're going to do it for both of them, should be granted that same opportunity rather than just one. At least if we're going to consider it on a temporary basis.
Right.
Sure.
The second gentleman, his was an older vehicle. I don't know if the size would be different, but I agree. I think if we're going to do it for the first gentleman was up there, then perhaps we should allow the second gentleman the same privilege. I mean, I hate to say, well, you can't use the beach. That's not.
I agree too, Phil, because if we're actually sitting here thinking about maybe him as the driver, but I think it was his elderly parents that need the ride, and I think for what we're talking here as far as there aren't that many trips in one summer. They're not joyriding, but I certainly will look into the specifications of the other off-road vehicle to make sure that it's not a dune buggy.
Any other questions or comments?
Are we looking to grant a variance now for the rest of the fall weather? Obviously, it will not be utilized once it gets very, very cold. But I mean, the weather so far has been very nice, and if we can give both gentlemen an opportunity to go down there and enjoy things that normally they wouldn't do, I see nothing wrong with that at all.
I think maybe we should, if we're going to consider a variance for the rest of 2020, but still, when we last discussed this, we were going to take a deeper dive, a deeper look into it, and come up with a comprehensive policy. So I applaud Mr. Shin for taking the steps that he has done so far to see what the impact would be for that specific individual. And hopefully we can incorporate much of what the work you've already done into if the policy needs to be revamped, or at least maybe reconsidering the policy over the winter months, so we can have a policy that we're all confident in come 2021.
I think that's a good point you mentioned for 2020, and then we can have the winter to discuss, if we want to change it or keep it the same, but let these gentlemen know that it's for this year only. I think that's a good idea.
Any other questions or comments? So, Phil, is that in the form of a motion?
I'd like to move that we allow the 2 off-road vehicles that exceed the 14 horsepower access to the beach via the path for the remainder of 2020, the season of 2020.
I would second.
Excuse me, I hate to break in. These are annual passes, so they run from the day they're issued for 365 days. So that would be taking him through next year, unless you wanted to permit him to use one in 2020 and maybe just waive the fee.
Absolutely. Pardon me. I would think that would be most appropriate. There's such a limited time left, but you would have to amend your motion to waive the fee for 2020 and to limit the number of days to the pass to 2020, which you already said in your motion.
So we're going to limit the number of days? Is that what, or allow them to use their vehicle till September 23rd of 2021?
No, I think the intent would be to let them use it for the remainder of 2020, but waive any fee associated with that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to amend that to add also in there to waiver any fee for the remainder of 2020.
And I will second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right, any tabled business we need to attend to?
No, sir.
All right, moving on to new business. The first item is the 2021 golf fees and agreements.
Included in your packet are the proposed and recommended fees, contracts, and policies for the golf course. These were submitted by Superintendent Randy Durham. The only change that he proposed was adding a veteran rate that would be the same as a senior for single passes only. I'll remind the board that typically you will table the fees for public input until your next meeting. And if that's what you choose to do tonight, I would ask that you approve item number 1, the season pass rules and refund policy. That's printed on the back of the actual passes, and I need time to get those ordered before the sale starts on November 1st.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
An only comment, I'm glad to see that Randy didn't raise the prices, and that I know some of the veterans were a little upset with the policy that's been in the past, so that's changed, and I think they have to be happy with the new pay scale that he has come up with. The only comment I have, that's going to make a lot of golfers happy.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze. Any other questions or comments? I had a different approach, or different thought. When I looked at the fees, I was kind of surprised that we didn't increase them.
I'm sorry?
When I was reviewing the fees, I was somewhat surprised we haven't increased them. And I look back, it has been 4 or 5 years since we've increased them. So I think what I'm going to do between this meeting and the next meeting is take a hard look to see if fee increases are necessary, just to be able to maintain conditions. One, we've got to make enough money to just operate, which we've had trouble doing historically. But then we also have some needs out of the course that need to be addressed between tree removal, cart paths, that if we can start to increase the non-reverting fund, the golf retains its own balance. And if we can build the funds, then we might be able to put in some of those improvements.
Well, I think Randy probably had these made up before the paper today. Before the 150,000, whatever it was, would have cut them. So
sure.
Yeah, that could be a possibility.
And we have to take a look too and see how we did this year, and with profit and loss. Anyway, those were my thoughts, and I thought everything else was in fine order. Let's just look at the economics and whether we can maintain to keep our prices the way they have been for the last 5 years.
Good point.
Because our wages are increasing, many other expenses are increasing, so if we don't adjust the income side, it's just inevitable we're going to have a problem. Any other questions or comments?
I think that's a good point, Phil. In fact, a little increase might offset. I see here veterans are allowed to play now at the same price as seniors, same fee as seniors, I see.
That's what's being proposed.
Yeah, but you're right. As the economy changes, there is a need for more income.
So well, maybe in the motion, if someone's going to move to table this, which we historically do, I think Shannon asked us to address the first item, which was at least approving the season pass rules and refund policy so that they can get printed. So if we have a motion, if someone may include that in the motion, I think Shannon would appreciate it.
I would so move that we approve item number 1 under the Michigan City Municipal Golf Course proposed 2021 fees, contracts, and policies, specifically the season pass rules and refund policy, and that I move to table the remainder of this to our next meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
We would encourage anyone from the public who has any opinion on these fees to contact us, because we really do try to just take the pulse of the community, and especially the golf community, when getting setting fees and maintaining the course. So we would welcome any feedback or comments.
Phil, last year, what did he lose? 90 days to weather? And this year, the COVID. So it'll be hard to, gonna have to work to stretch those numbers.
Exactly. Good point.
But you guys could do that.
All right. All right, the next item is the operation of Washington Park. Mr. Shin?
Right. The operation of Washington Park. We have, in one of our meetings, changed the times that the park would be open. And those times are open, the park is open now from 10 in the morning till 8 at night. And there is an ordinance out right now, 4546, that states a few things that we were not in agreement with, so it may be repealed. And if this ordinance is repealed, we would like to already have in order the new times, the old times that we used to abide by, and we would like the rules to be set in place as they have been, except for the grilling rule. There would be no grilling on the beach. So if we could discuss that or vote on changing the hours to the old times that we were satisfied with before the COVID for opening and closing, and amend the rules as far as the grilling is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Shin. Any questions or comments?
Now, what about stickers? After Tuesday, characteristically, everything was opened, and whether you had a sticker or not, the park was open to everyone. Would that also be part of the request that we are making?
Well, the sticker rule is going to be in order according to this ordinance until they repeal.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, that is one of the items that we want to change and allow, as we had mentioned before, everything that we normally did after Labor Day. And that's, and of course, what you had just mentioned about grilling, that we definitely want to make sure that that is not occurring. But what I'm hearing is that we want to make sure that anyone who wants to come into Washington Park, now that the season is over, will be allowed to do that. I know I've gotten some complaints from people who have cleared their windshields simply because after the season, they just wanted a clear windshield. And they took that sticker off and found that they could no longer get into the park. And they were not pleased.
So what we're recommending tonight is that once the Washington Park is not under a mayor's executive order or any ordinance by the city council, that we revert back to our normal operation, including our normal rules. Business as usual.
Yes.
And we do expect that the ordinance will be either repealed or greatly amended.
Thank you, Shannon. So when you refer to normal rules, are you referring to the page number 2 in the document tonight, which was Welcome to Washington Park, Michigan City Parks and Rec, Washington Park Rules and Regulations adopted by Michigan City Park Board on July 27, 2020, or are you referring to?
That's correct. So you amended the rules in July to include no grilling on the beach and to change the hours of the park. So we would like you to vote tonight that as soon as we're not under any orders, we are back to this set of rules and business as usual. Gates open to everyone.
And when you say these set of rules, you're referring to what's presented in front of us tonight?
That's correct.
There's just 2 Scrivener errors we'll need to clean up if this gets amended. It's repeated, the following rules apply to Michigan City Park Department properties is repeated twice. And then there's just a spacing error, number 8 in picnic.
Oh, I see it.
Just a couple of Scrivener errors that we'll clean up.
Ed or Shannon, just for clarification, our rules and regulations never address stickered or non-stickered vehicles.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is just, and I'd applaud your effort for this purpose to get ahead of what we anticipate happening. So I absolutely appreciate that, and also hope that significant consideration is given to the repeal of that ordinance so we can operate the way we're normally used to and able to operate.
Yeah, I think if this is just a reset button, when the council does repeal it, we've already reset to the normal operating procedures. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the Michigan City Parks and Rec, Washington Park Rules and Regulations adopted by the Michigan City Park Board on July 27, 2020 to go into effect as soon as administratively possible?
Are you going to handle these this week? Yeah.
I would like to make that motion that the park board is in agreement that as long as the city council can, I believe they would have to issue another ordinance. We are talking about ordinance 4546, and we would like if they can amend that or put out a new ordinance that returns the hours and operation of Washington Park back to the normal hours that are always in place after Labor Day.
And I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Moving right along, we have an RFP out for some erosion control projects. And Shannon, or Mr. Shin, can you, did we receive any quotes?
So item C is to accept quotes, but the quote deadline was September 16th, which was your last meeting, and it got moved, so we don't need to address item C. Item D is to open the quotes. I received one that was returned, unable to forward, from Ecologic in Bloomington, Indiana. Not respond. The second quote was received on September 16th at 2:15 p.m. prior to the required deadline. To remind the board, this is to plant the marum grass on the side of the beach mat. This is the last project to close out our grant. The quote was received from Applied Ecological Services in Broadhead, Wisconsin. Total quote is $52,714.80. Days to complete is 30 days. This is almost double what we have left in our grant account, so I would ask the board to reject this bid, and I'll probably have to consider either rebidding this fall. We have a short window. You can plant through about November 15th, or asking for a grant extension. There's no cost to the city. It's a simple one-page agreement, and look at rebidding this in the spring. I'll do a little research, but this is not in our budget.
And there were no alternates or any other ways that were included?
No alternates. It was based on a square footage and specifications on how far apart you had to plant and the planting method.
Okay.
That's way beyond the budgetary quote that I received when I wrote the grant.
So we don't have the money to proceed with that?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So what you're saying, Shannon, is that what's left in that grant is somewhere around $28,000, and so whatever that we can do has to come in underneath that, and this is, like you said, this is well over that. So
There's $25,000 left in the grant.
yeah. So would rebidding be the way to go?
I'll have to look at a timeline. My guess is we would ask for the extension and do it in the spring.
That's what I was thinking.
I just don't think we have enough time to get the bids out.
Yeah.
And I sent it to 5 companies that deal in this type of work. One returned to sender and only one other bid. So, I might have to reach out and see, were they just too busy? Is it better to bid it back out in the spring to get a good price? But at this point, we have to reject it. We can't afford it.
Thank you, Ms. Eason. Any other questions or comments? Not, do we have a motion to reject the quote from Applied Ecological Services?
I would move we reject the bid from Applied Ecological Services. Their bid of $52,714.80, and allow Shannon to send out and ask for whatever other company she has to consider rebidding on this project.
I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We can also get rid of item E, which pertained to the contract for that quote and project.
E is no longer applicable, so we'll move on to item F, the Salvation Army request for kettles in Washington Park.
This is the Salvation Army's annual request to do some fundraising during the holiday lights. This year more than ever, they need to raise funds. I think they kicked off their campaign, their Christmas campaign yesterday. So what they're asking is to put a kettle out, and they'll have that kettle manned. It would be during the holiday lights lighting, which is scheduled for December 5th this year. They're looking at 4 to 9 p.m., 2 bell ringers. I would recommend we approve this request. It's been successful in the couple of decades that we've been doing holiday lights.
Thank you, Ms. Eason. Any questions or comments?
Just a comment. I know, working with the Salvation Army, another organization, they're in dire need. The COVID and the job losses have just really put a crunch on them this year, more so than ever. And with the holiday season coming up, I need a motion. I would move we allow the Salvation Army to put their kettles out.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next is the Walker Street Garden MOU.
Yes, this is the same MOU the board has approved for the previous 3 years. This is a partnership between the Park Department, Purdue Extension, and the Community Development Block Grant. It was originally designed to put a community garden in a lower income food desert type of area. It's been hugely successful. They've not only done gardening, but they brought in local chefs to do cooking classes. They brought in yoga instructors, information about how to stay healthy. It's been an amazing project for the neighborhood, the kids, the grandparents working together. So I would highly recommend that the board accept the MOU for next year. All expenses will still be covered under the grant.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I encourage anybody who has not been out to look at this, just take a quick ride out there and look at it. They've done such a great job. It's clean, organized, and it does do a good service. I would move that we accept this memorandum of understanding.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right, the next item is Youth Baseball Clinic. Mr. Shin.
Oh, the youth baseball clinic. Well, it came to my attention, visiting the parks, when I first started working for the city a few months ago. There was a park in Lakeland, and there were no kids playing on it, and I thought that was quite a sight. It was a nice day. I realized, and you all realize, that youth baseball was canceled because of COVID. So I think with a little help from some volunteers, we are going to hold a clinic or baseball fun day for kids 7, 8, 9, and 10 at this ballpark that I was intrigued by. It's going to be free. I have, like I said, instructors to get through this day, helping these kids with techniques in baseball and basically bringing back their interest, making sure they don't lose interest because they had no baseball this year. So it'll be October 10th at Oak Hills Park, across from the Martin Luther King Center. It'll be free for the kids, and we are now publicizing it. Have sponsors, which include Austin Masonry Concrete, Reprographic Arts, and Victory Lane Auto Spa. And it should be a nice day, and hopefully these kids won't lose interest in baseball. And I think it's good for the city. However, I am planning on doing other events. I don't want everybody to think that it's always just going to be baseball. So I'm looking forward to looking into some type of science fair for kids in my next project.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
I think that this is a win-win situation for these young people and of course for the park department. And if there aren't any other discussions on this, I would be happy to so move that we allow the youth baseball skills clinic to occur on October the 10th, 2020 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Sure.
Yeah, I know it's 9 to 2. Are you gonna have like maybe apples or oranges or something for the kids to munch on while they're out there? I mean, these are young kids, you know, they starve to death in 40 minutes.
We will be prepared with free Gatorade, free water, hot dogs, and potato chips.
I'll say.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Shin, just a quick comment. I applaud your efforts. Part of our mission as a park department is to provide recreational opportunities, and here you took it upon yourself, you saw an opportunity, and provide something especially free of cost with the help of the sponsors, Austin Masonry, Reprographic Arts, and Victory Lane. Just applaud you and your efforts and
Well, thank you very much.
help the
I
community.
must say that Shannon and Michelle and Melissa are a big help in there. I just pretty much pass on information, but I couldn't do it without Shannon and Melissa and the girls in the office, just so you know.
Well, your team is doing well, so it's
Yeah.
glad to be a part of it. The next item is the minimum pay policy.
The minimum pay policy. In one of our previous meetings, we discussed a 4-hour minimum pay and reduced it to a 2-hour minimum pay that was across the board at the golf course for employees. This was amended under the idea that I would look into a 1-hour minimum pay for workers who report to work and are sent home within that 1 hour. It reads like this: employees who are scheduled to work and report to work on time and are sent home anytime within the first scheduled hour due to inclement weather will be paid 1 hour of pay. But I want to make it clear that this is pretty much, if we could separate it for the golf course only, because the maintenance crew, and maybe you want to go across the board with it, that's across the board. If you want to discuss that, the persons at the golf course may not have indoor work to do, but the maintenance crew for the parks and the grounds probably would not be sent home because there is work for them indoors. So you can discuss that, you can approve it for all across the board, but I have a feeling that the maintenance department over parks and trails would be able to work indoors.
Questions or comments?
Excuse me, I think we need to address, the first policy is for seasonal or non-seasonal. And as you were speaking, I thought about, what about our lifeguards? What about our parking staff? That's a typical occurrence for both of those operations, that they clock in, they call me, we're looking at the radar. I usually tell them, hang on, give me half an hour, 45 minutes, let's see if it clears up. So I think it would be fair to do it across the board for employees that do not have indoor work. And I guess the supervisors would need to supervise that.
So today, if they would clock in and then sent home within 15 minutes, they're paid that 15 minutes.
Correct.
Nothing more. So
Correct.
is the benefit of this policy is to make sure that employees show up during inclement weather in case we open, or
Absolutely.
have we had a problem with that in the past?
So I had a case this summer where I had 3 employees on staff, and it was supposed to clear up within 45 minutes, so they just clocked out, wait in the break room, and then the rain came back, and this went on for like 2 hours. So yes, it gets them to show up on time, and it's, I think it's also fair. They got up, got ready for work, drove to work. Now, if it's a case where they open at 7:30 in the morning, there's staff there, I call them up before if I know that they don't need to be there. But that's difficult when you're on the lakefront. It's just sketchy. You know, our weather doesn't follow Chicago's anymore. So yeah, I think it's just fair. You're paying them kind of for their get ready for work, drive time, get all the way there. You're there 30 minutes, now go home.
Or possibly one comment, I'm sorry. If they make their way to work and they get there and they're actually sent home right away. In other words, some of these people, maybe that's a little bit difficult for them to understand or to take, that they went all the way to work and they're going all the way home and they don't get the 1 hour show-up time.
This would be across the complete department, not necessarily golf course or beach specific.
I would think that would be fair.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I see Jamie sitting there. Would that affect your workers at all? I know the animals don't care if it's raining, go feed them, but anybody else that your department would be affected by this minimum pay policy?
It would be that caretaker would affect this area.
So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the board? That could be in a form of a motion, since it's, I would think the way it's written, it doesn't bifurcate one area of our department versus another, so I think it's assumed that it's across. Yeah.
I move that we accept the minimum pay policy that the superintendent has written up for employees who are scheduled to work and report to work on time and then are sent home within the first hour. And this is to cover across the board employees.
I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next item on the agenda is Boo at the Zoo. Welcome, Jamie. I see that you've provided documentation in regard to some changes that need to be made because of the COVID situation and with a historically popular event that you put on. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe just walk us through what you're suggesting and how we can handle that for this season.
Yep, we want to continue the event because so much just got canceled this year. So instead of having the one-day event that we squeeze 3,000 kids at one time, we wanted to break it into 3 days, continue to have the sponsors from the community, because we do have, the community still wants to reach out and participate. So the vendors will still donate the candy, which will save some cost to the zoo, but we would pre-package the candy into bags, give the kids a ticket when they come into the zoo. They would walk around the zoo in their costumes, and then when they leave, claim their candy bag. That way it'd be totally safe, hands off. We would do it during normal zoo hours, which would save on overtime, and the kids would, the people would make reservations in advance, which worked earlier this season. When people would call ahead, we'd do social distancing with a time reservation. And that way you get your name on a list, get your time, and then we would, it will limit the amount of people who would be able to participate in the program, which it's not the way we want to do things, but it's the way things have to work this year with the COVID event. But we want kids to wear their costumes, to walk around the zoo, take photos, to keep the memories going, because it is a fun event. The animals will still get their pumpkins, they get their treats. A lot of stuff will still be going on, but we want to continue the event. So that's about all I got to say what's going on.
That's
Thank
a
you.
well-designed plan.
Yeah, it's going to go on from 10 to 4. We're hoping to get about 2,000 pieces of candy donated, and hoping within the 3 days to get all the bags handed out. So it's going to be hit or miss. If we have to come back, if we have extra candy to give out, we just don't know how it's going to work out with the 3 days. So, but we have to come back. We'll come back to the board to ask for a 4th day on the 1st. We just don't know how it's going to work out with the kids in between the 3 days, if we're going to need a 4th day or not. So, but we're going to we know we have a certain amount of people per half hour between the 3 days right now, and we've got to keep it to that limit to space it out.
Great.
So it's confusing, but we have a system. It worked out, June through August, and that's the system we're going to use to make sure we're safe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for documenting the plan. It was very clear to me. I didn't find it confusing. So.
Okay, all right.
But that's because it's well presented, so thank you so much for that. Any questions or comments?
Go ahead, Phil.
I might have missed it. I know you're requiring registration. How many would you have per session?
It ends up being about 75 people per half hour.
Yeah, what? I'm sorry.
It's 75 people per half hour.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
I would just like to thank you for putting all this together. I know that every year it's an unbelievably well-attended project, and the kids love it. And obviously you're working under some very unusual conditions this year. But I just want to thank you and your staff for the work that you have done on this, and hopefully the weather will cooperate, and it's for the kids. But again, thank you for the work that you've done on it.
Yeah, the event will go on, rain or shine, it's trick-or-treating. Unless it's a storm like we had a few years ago where the wind, was totally bad, we'll have the event either way.
Jamie, the 75 kids per,
It's 75 people, so that's kids and adults.
and that's per how long?
It's every half hour.
Every half hour. Does that exceed pretty much, and what I'm driving at here is the pedestrian crossing. Is that much more than when you typically were busy, when I saw you very busy maybe on a Saturday last week? Is that 75 people much more than what I was seeing when you were busy last week?
I know, basically we had 4.
It's about the same?
Yeah, but we'll do this with tickets in advance, and we'll have 2 lines. And we have the yellow lines to keep them.
I guess my point is I'm just concerned about that crosswalk. So if you feel like you need an attendant to protect the kids as they cross the street, because they're all running, they're not always walking in single file. So
Yeah.
please let me know if you think that the crowd is a little bit to the point where you need help at the crosswalk.
Yep. Thank you.
And you are doing a great job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a comment. I'm going to share what everyone else's sentiments are, that I'm really, really grateful that you guys have sat down, put your heads down, and figured out a way to make this work. I think with so many things being canceled, having something like this to look forward to is going to be really, really nice for the kids in our community, and especially with that 3rd day, if the candy lasts, actually being on Halloween, since a lot of other trick-or-treating in neighborhoods may or may not happen, this as an option I think is really great. So I'm glad it's going forward, and I thank you and everyone else at the zoo for accommodating to make it work with COVID.
Jamie, just a few questions. Normally, how many kids attend Boo at the Zoo?
Norris season is like 3,000 people. This year, it's gonna be at max 2,000.
2,000, okay.
It's a lot of kids, 3,000.
And my only other, when reading through this plan, my thought was it may take some more volunteer efforts to assemble all the bags. And
We're gonna use staff, the society,
Okay,
and we have the vendors who usually do the stations. They want to participate and do the bags.
okay,
And
great.
but we're gonna require the mask and the gloves.
Fantastic. Yeah, I didn't want you to be shy. You normally aren't. If you need volunteers, you need help, please raise your hand and we'll do whatever we can do to.
Yeah, so we couldn't do this without the local vendors who donate the candy, and we've already got the library, and we have 6 already who have already signed up. They're going to be listed on a coloring sheet that Tony Blanco, who's going to design it, and all the vendors will be listed on the back of that sheet to give them credit where credit's due for stepping up and participating and helping making this happen. So.
Yeah, right on. Any other questions or comments? If none, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'd move that we accept the Washington Park Zoo plan for Boo at the Zoo on the stated dates.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Next item is the report of officers. Mr. Shin.
Yes. Actually, the first item on my list is the zoo. The zoo is 100% complete with their recovery process after the utility truck incident damaging some real property and the utility lines and power poles. Jamie and her staff and subcontractors should be commended for their hard work to accomplish this feat. This work was completed without a hitch and did not hinder the general public as they toured the zoo. Nice work, Jamie. The next thing on my list would be public comment results. In the past month or so, I've received comments that have been directed to me, either to me or my associates, to repair such items as Adams Park, which had been neglected from lawn care because of the high water table. We couldn't get any mowers in there. Electrical boxes and outlets missing safety covers. And these are comments that I hear. Loose newel posts and rails at the skate park, and telephone junction boxes coming loose at Gardena and things like that. Oh, and the rock garden covered with weeds. Not that anybody neglected it, but the plants just grew after years and years of growth, and it didn't take much to cover up the rock garden. And I just want to say that all of these items that were brought to my attention were reported to my crew, my foreman and 4-person. And I just want to say that they act immediately and they address these issues. And I want to thank Chris Kaufman and Sandy Kalinowski and their crew, my crew, for their dedication and the way they supervise this work and get it done in a short time. When public complains or makes comments about things, I like to see these things get, and Shannon as well, we like to see these things get completed quickly. And the crew, hats off to them. So they do a very good job. The senior center. There's been a lot of talk and questions, a lot of questions about reopening the senior center. Wednesday, the governor stated that the senior centers of Indiana are allowed to open. The Michigan City Senior Center and its attendees are ready to begin activities. However, abiding by a well thought out health and safety compliance plan must be in order. I contacted most of the board members on the senior center, with the senior center, contacted our director and found that there is a high demand by the seniors to reopen. The seniors are very anxious to get back into the senior center. Obviously, COVID is by no means a thing of the past. We have to consider the elderly and their possible, anyone over 60, that includes me, deficient immune systems. So this is something that we're not going to jump into. I know the seniors are anxious, but when this opens, I'll be closely monitoring the building and its occupants and its activities regarding health and safety. I have reached out to the LaPorte County Health Department. They are now reviewing the plan that the board and our director came up with to comply to stop this, to eliminate the spread of COVID in the senior center. So we're not jumping into this. Everybody wants it to open, but we are going to make sure we have our ducks in a row on this. I'll hear from the health department tomorrow, and then I'm going to sit down with the mayor and a few of the administrative staff and Shannon, and together we will make sure that when the senior center opens, that we have our plan in order and the seniors will engage in safety. And I'm sure the seniors will be using their best judgment. I would like to give a proposed date, but because of the, somewhere, yes, Shannon, you're right, somewhere in the middle of October or before is a proposed date, yes. It shouldn't take too long. We just want to make sure everything is safe. The next item, I call it a layer of safety. I'm bringing this topic up because it's of vital importance, safety in Lake Michigan. And that happens to be, Shannon and I talk about a lot of things, but that is really number one on our list, especially after last summer's incident. I suppose every summer's incident, and our goal is to get through a summer without an incident in Lake Michigan. Lifeguards are at the top of our list, of course. It was difficult last year. We had very few people sign up to apply for lifeguards, and those that spoke with us, apparently it's before I became on board, but they were a little bit unsure of being a lifeguard with COVID. So we're going to get through that, and we're going to find a way to get some lifeguards out there. However, Shannon and me and some of our associates came up with an idea to add a layer or a blanket of security and information at the shoreline. Signs are good, flags are good, but some of us seem to think that a layer of safety, personal interaction might be the only way to stop people from swimming that don't understand the powers of Lake Michigan. And a lot of times these are people from out of town. If there are lifeguards, that's well and good. If there may be a policy where when the waves are bad and the deadly riptide occurs, maybe the lifeguards will not be on the life stand. We don't know how that's going to work yet. We're still deciding. Apparently there are two ways to do that. However, our proposal is to take this winter and discuss ways and means that we can have personal interaction on the beach. I experimented with it myself 2 Sundays ago, and it was there was terrible riptides, and there was a child swimming, and he was the only one for many feet swimming. But I actually walked up to his mother and I told them that I advised that they don't swim, that nobody swims today, and I would like to see her son not swimming in this terrible deadly riptide. And she looked at me a little funny, but then she thanked me, told him to come in. She said, not at all. I said he could swim up to his ankles. So on days like this, he stayed out of the water. On days like this, I just think that there needs to be some other form of information for these people so we can go summers without drowning. So I will close on that topic, but that's something that I would really like to discuss throughout the winter before next summer. I visited the Carwick Nature Park Bridge. and was totally amazed. And I want to say hats off to the Trail Creek Watershed Partnership. I visited to watch them. I wanted to work, but I couldn't make it that day, Dahlia. But they were working very hard staining this awesome bridge that I really urge everybody to go see. Apparently it has a trail that's unfinished. The amount of work to stain this bridge by these volunteers was just unbelievable, the amount of work. And hats off to you, Dahlia and Shannon, for doing all that work on that beautiful bridge. The sanitary district, it was their project to build the bridge, and with Dahlia Zeigas and Ryan Byers and Steve Sanford and Shannon, they did a very good job, and I hope that the city will visit this bridge when it opens sometime in the spring. An unbelievable bridge. So that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Shin. Any questions for the superintendent or comments?
Just a comment that I couldn't agree more that we need to be making more efforts to do what we can. It is tragic that every summer that comes and goes, we have a loss of life. And a lot of that life lost are young kids. So I absolutely agree, and I think your head's in the right place on thinking of ways to do what we can, to the extent that we can, make it a drowning-free summer. That would be incredible.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to liaison reports, and starting with Ms. Espar, the Planning Commission.
Yes, the Planning Commission had a meeting just this past Tuesday, but nothing pertaining to the Park Department.
Thank you. Port Authority, Mr. Freeze.
No report.
Thank you. And Zoo Society, Mr. Lang.
The Zoological Society has not met the last couple of months because of COVID. They do have a meeting coming up on October the 13th at the zoo at 5:30. But as Jamie knows, they have been working behind the scenes to make the Boo at the Zoo a reality. And they have been working on that for, I think, I'm not sure exactly when they started, but it was sometime around the middle of the summer that they made the decision that they were going to attempt to have this, and it will come to fruition. So I don't have any other report other than they're still putting everything together. And you had that report tonight from Jamie as to what's going on. So that will continue, and hopefully we will have a successful season with that, and the kids will benefit and everyone will have a good time.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Any attorney's report tonight?
Again, thank you for this opportunity. We're most grateful. Most people here in the room now have my card with my cell phone number on the back. Please use it. We're here. We pride ourselves on being accessible whenever needed. So if you didn't get one, please make sure that you do. Nina, I know you have my number already, but we are here to help. So let us know how we can best serve you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I probably will have some questions on what I can and can't do on that shoreline.
Okay, deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any director's reports tonight?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move on to department finances. Mr. Lang.
All right. Under city claims docket for September the 24th, 2020, municipal $44,997.60, golf petty cash $982.90, a zoo endowment, none at this time. Total claims for claims docket on September the 24th, $45,980.50, and I so move that we meet that claims docket.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Payroll number 18, this is August the 9th, 2020 to August the 22nd with a pay date of August the 28th. A total payroll of $56,551.54. I so move that we meet payroll number 18.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Payroll number 19, August the 23rd through September the 5th with the pay date of September the 11th. Total payroll $56,945.82, and I so move that we meet payroll number 19.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under gifts and donations, Allison Clement, miscellaneous zoo donation in memory of Michael Clement for $100. And I so move that we accept this donation from Allison in memory of Michael Clement for $100.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under minor transfers, Maintenance Fund 2056.505, a decrease in account number 436.05, sewage of $200, a decrease in the account number 436.020, repair/maintenance equipment, a decrease on, and that one is for $500, a decrease in account number 436.010, repair/maintenance building, $1,500, a decrease in account 435.03, utilities heat for $1,200, a decrease in account number 435.04, utilities water for $5,000. That comes to a total of $8,400, and we are increasing by $8,400 in account number 439.09, contractual. So we have simply moved money around. There's been no money gained, no money lost, just moving it to different accounts. And so I so move that we maintenance fund transfers, a decrease and increase in the fund 2056.505.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that is all under the financial matters tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Any comments from the public tonight? Welcome.
Hi, Dahlia Gigas. I'm on the Michigan City Common Council. A couple of questions and great meeting, very informational. I loved it. Where can the public get the list of the golf fees that are proposed for 2021? Is it on your website somewhere, or?
As soon as the board tables them, they go onto our website the following morning, and they'll stay up for 2 weeks for comment.
Excellent. Thank you. And I am going to do what I can to return control to the zoo hours and parking stickers back to you. So we'll see if that's successful with the city council. And I do love the personal interaction to get people's attention at the beach. I don't know how to do that, but that's an excellent idea, and I think that really can have some potential help. So thank you very much. Very interesting meeting.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment? Seeing none, any board comment?
I'd just like to say to Jamie and her crew, another wonderful job for the entire year, but the organization for food, the zoo, I know there'll be a lot of kids in Michigan City very happy. Congratulations again for a tough year.
Any other comments? I've got just a few items. One, we received a letter, I'm saying we, the Michigan City Park and Recreation Board, from the Michigan City Community Enrichment Corporation. This won't take long, but I'd like to share it with you. I'm writing today, and this is from George Kazmarek. I am writing today to you to let you know that Michigan City Community Enrichment Corporation Board has presented the Washington Park Zoo a check in the amount of $100,000. The MCCEC Board presents a check to the zoo director every year pursuant to the Riverboat Gaming Development Agreement dated June 10th, 1997. This award is presented annually and is to be used for capital improvements. This is normally given to a representative from the Washington Park Zoo at an MCCEC board meeting, where they give our board a review of how last year's grant was used for improvements and how this year's grant is expected to be sent. This year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we will not have a presentation in person. However, Ms. has provided the MCCEC Board of Directors with an email presentation that the board members have received. She did an excellent job in providing us details in the report. We anticipate the zoo will use the grant in the best way that will benefit the zoo and its needs. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me at mccec@michigancity.com. Thank you, George Kaczmarek, President, Board of Directors, Michigan City Community Enrichment Corporation. So thank you, Jamie, again for your work. And thank you for the MCCEC for that continued donation. That's been going on for a long time. And my only other, I was hoping I'd get some comments from Mr. Shin or Ms. Eason in relation to if the recommendations from the City Finance Committee in regard to the budget are accepted and passed, any immediate and direct impacts on the Park Department.
You're talking about the 2021 budgets?
Yes.
No, none that I see. There were great impacts to the 2020 budget. Our department was able to deobligate around $585,000 of our current working budget to fund next year. By doing that this year, we were able to maintain pretty much the same amounts for next year. It was a very difficult budget cycle with COVID and trying to figure out what to compare and how to compare. So the workshops went well with the council, and I think we're in good shape for next year. The majority of that money came out of our recreation fund because we had absolutely no recreation. So the mayor and the controller were very grateful to our department to help get the city through this hump in 2021.
When money is removed from the non-reverting fund, is that won't put us behind in future years for maybe we usually use those funds for various either capital improvements, small capital improvements.
These were deobligated out of our operating funds.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was able to watch a few of the budget meetings, and you two did a great job at representing the park board. Sometimes not easy to field questions for that long of time, and sometimes whether you feel they're trivial or not. I don't feel there were a lot of trivial questions, but to answer them factually, quickly, with not a lot of fluff and getting to the point, I think is well received, and just shows how well you know the numbers and you're in control of the budget. And I believe that also gives confidence in people who are relying on the numbers that are provided to them, that money's being well spent and well managed. So thank you thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? All right, to have a motion to adjourn?